Okay, hello. Hey, what's up, everyone? This is not something I typically do often. Thanks for tuning in. Not by that I mean just kind of like uh, just going into the video and just asking a question. And I decided to do this today because um, I had a somewhat of a a general question inquiry that I posed upon myself, somewhat of a thought experiment or what have you. And I don't know how I got there, or I kind of remember, kind of don't. Don't want to speculate too much, but I'm going to be using ChatGPT to help me with this inquiry. And that is, was the invention or was the discovery, invention slash discovery of shelter, the concept of shelter, the concept of living space, was it inevitable? I guess perhaps another way to ask that would be, um, did God intend for humans to build and live in particular living quarters? You know what, obviously, you know what shelter is, you know what a house, a home is, an apartment, what have you, something to protect you from the elements, essentially rain, sleet, hail, Mother Nature when she goes wild, or when she's just cool, nature. When are we supposed to I don't know, like the original uh sort of are we supposed to have a, a natural sort of awakening, and that is, are we to awake in nature? Like when we open our eyes, are we to see nature, trees, what have you, the sky? When you open your eyes in the morning, are you to see the sky? You know what I mean? Are you to, wipe the coal out of your eyes, and are you to see trees and hear the sounds of nature? Is that supposed to be your soundscape, and is that supposed to be the landscape every morning? And is that the space and the place, consciously and unconsciously, is that the most intended space? Is that the place that we're supposed to wake up and go to sleep in? And I mean, sounds nice, but then you have the elements, you have animals and such, right? And then you have the animals, and then you have the elements, right? So you got to protect yourself, right? Okay. Did we find the most and I'm not really trying to propose any answers. I really I'm seeking opinions and questions, or comments as it relates to this. But like, when we opted to protect ourselves, did we go about it correctly? You know what I mean? Obviously, we did it the best way we could, but also things should be in a constant state of refinement. I think everyone would agree with that, that everything can be made better, right? And what does it mean to be made better? Does To be made better, does it mean to return to, or does it mean an attempt to conserve? Is better an attempt to salvage? And of course, salvage presupposes something being, you know, uh, I suppose, destroyed, or somewhat destroyed and then saved. Or so there is an element of destruction. Uh, but some people might say that, yes, as masters of the land, there might be some element of destruction. Perhaps destruction is relative. I mean, you can destroy your tree to make a shelter, right? And obviously, you do destroy your tree to make a shelter of some sort if you have a tree house, but there's different types of tree houses. You know what I mean? There's tree houses in which I'm sure the tree in which the house is made has not been uprooted. So in a sense, the tree is still alive. And that can be turned into a shelter. So I guess I'm trying to explore the concept of what is better. Inevitably, were we what no were we supposed to live in shelter? And what is and if so, how is that shelter supposed to look? And then what are the systems that have or should have been put in place in order to make sure that this state of refinement is always uh, prioritized or legitimized or I don't know. It's hard to say, but I think I've kind of set this up enough. But I'm just gonna kind of like go through like 3 videos because I kind of like been talking to ChatGPT about this earlier, and basically it says I asked her somewhat, something related to this, and then I kind of wanted some philosophical sort of reference points. I suppose that's how you're gonna how should say it. And ChatGPT offered me Martin Heidegger, Martin Heidegger, Heidegger, Gaston Bachelard in Poetics of Space. I read that book, and then from Martin Heidegger, uh, the concept, the concept of dwelling. So I'm going to look at that in a book called Building, Dwelling, Thinking. It's interesting. Another video inspired by Paul Shepard, who was an environmentalist, and then Wang Wei, I believe, WEI. So it's Wang, WANG, Wei, WEI. So basically, I'm just going to be looking at 3 videos inspired by these 3 particular philosophers that tried to in some form or another, they tried to wrestle with this concept. So it's not videos obviously on these philosophers, but it's videos inspired by concepts put forth by these philosophers. And I think that's more of an interesting take on it to stay in this sort of abstract sort of realm that we're in, because obviously, we might affect change, we might effect change. Who knows? You tell me. I'm really interested in, I don't kind of do this often, but I realized that this is an interesting space for me to be a little bit vulnerable, uh, and where I'm at in this particular space, where what I'm thinking, at least what I was thinking early today. The first video I'm going to be looking at is called From Building, Dwelling, Thinking by Martin Heidegger. And it's basically a video based on a small part of an essay written by Martin Heidegger, in which he will use examples of a bridge to explain how a building can meet the needs of men and women without interfering with the fourfold, a concept he calls the fourfold, which is earth, sky, divinities, and mortals. So I'm going to listen to this. I'm going to play it out, and I'm going to play it a little bit faster than the regular normal speed. So I'm going to start it now.
The bridge swings over the stream with ease and power. It does not just connect banks that are already there. The banks emerge as banks only as the bridge crosses the stream. With the banks, the bridge brings the stream,
Banks,
the one and
she's
the
saying.
other expanse of the landscape lying between them. It brings stream and bank and land into each other's neighborhood. The bridge gathers the earth as landscape around the stream. Thus, it guides and attends the stream through the meadows. Resting upright in the stream's bed, the bridge piers bear the swing of the arches that leave the stream's waters to run their course.
So basically, it says the bridge lets the stream run its course. So the bridge, uh, being built as such, doesn't interfere with the stream under, does not destroy it or really interact with it much. You know, for the most part. Uh, and at the same time grants their way to mortals so that they may come and go from shore to shore. So we're granted access to the other side by means of a bridge. We all pretty much know how bridges work, but what a bridge represents seems to be suggesting a symbiotic relationship where the landscape has not been destroyed, but we work with the landscape, and by use of a bridge, it helps us to explore the landscape without destroying it. So it helps us and the landscape, kind of. I'm not quite sure it helps the landscape, but let's see.
Bridges lead in many ways.
You tell me. You tell me.
The city bridge leads from the precincts of the castle to the cathedral square. The river bridge near the country town brings wagons and horse teams to surrounding villages. The highway bridge is tied into the network of long distance traffic. Paced as calculated for maximum yield.
Paste as calculated for maximum yield. It's pretty interesting. So I just want to explore this concept because I think it is. And she's playing like music here, but I think she's got some more.
Always and ever differently, the bridge escorts the lingering and hastening ways of men to and fro, so that they may get to other banks, and in the end, as mortals, to the other side. The bridge gathers to itself, in its own way, earth and sky, divinities and mortals.
Okay, now I didn't really get much of what is suggested by divinities from the Fourfold. I suppose it was the earth, sky, divinities, and mortals, right? So from Martin number two, he talks about the Fourfold, earth, sky, divinities, and what was the last one? Mortals. Can you explain to me what Martin meant by divinities? And I'm just going to try and ask ChatGPT to help me understand or help us understand that, just so I can try to just wrap my head around whether or not bridges, do they help the landscape? And I mean, I'm inclined to say not really, but perhaps I'm missing something. You know what I mean? And obviously, maybe you know, uh, I don't know. Let's see what ChatGPT says. It says in Heidegger's philosophy, the term divinities refers to a way of understanding the world that goes beyond traditional religious connotations. Heidegger uses the term to describe the fundamental elements or forces that shape human existence and experience. These divinities are not necessarily new supernatural beings. They're not necessarily supernatural beings, but rather symbolize the broader context in which human life unfolds. For Heidegger, divinities represent the larger framework of meaning within which human existence takes place. They encompass the interconnectedness of the earth, the sky, and the mortals, and they contribute to the sense of awe and mystery that underlies human existence. The concept of divinities in Heidegger's philosophy is deeply intertwined with his exploration of human existence and the world in which we dwell. Ah, yes, yes. And that's an interesting perspective. If we are to take if we can take all concepts as meaning within themselves. I don't want to interject too much uh of my own thoughts, but I just want to try to understand what I just read. It seems like it's suggesting that life itself, human existence, uh and the recognition of the beauty of nature and that which is involved with human existence, experiences that perhaps are intrinsic to human existence, for example, interacting with nature makes life that much more experienced, that much more human, uh, worthy of the experience. Uh, it seems so um, to experience the stream being nothing more or less, not being a dilapidated stream, but a fully flourishing stream is in itself beneficial, of course, to the human experiencing the stream and also the stream fully expressing, uh, I suppose, itself absolutely. And that's a bit abstract, but I want to kind of go to the next video. And this one is titled, "Is It Time to Reassess Our Relationship with Nature?" By BBC Ideas. So I'm going to start it now.
Earth. Us. Earth. Us. But hang on, are we part of the Earth? We're organic creatures, made of the same molecules as everything else on the planet. One interconnected ecosystem that keeps us all alive. But are we superior, different, or special? Why do we often feel, well, separate from the Earth? In fact, not everyone does. Throughout human history, lots of cultures have viewed their relationship to the Earth in other ways. Many still do. Animism, the belief that spirit infuses objects, nature, and the whole of existence, is a fundamental.
So they're saying animism. And that's what it.
Principle of many indigenous societies. In Daoism, cosmic energy or life force is everywhere and is constantly seeking harmony and balance between all things. Ancient Andean civilizations placed the spirit of Pachamama, or Mother Earth, at the very center of their worldview. And today, for many indigenous people of the world, like the Ua tribe in Colombia, the earth is not just the dust from which human beings are made. It's the spirit of their people and ancestors. It's their history. It is life itself. This isn't always an easy idea for people in today's Western societies to grasp.
So it's referring to, and there's a name for it. They're referring particularly to a culture in Colombia, but essentially saying that Mother Earth as life itself, and life is life because life is Mother Earth, and Mother Earth is life. So it's like, okay, in order to experience life, it is to experience Mother Earth. And I think that that would be a decent sort of connection. And I really want to hear you guys' opinions on this because, like I said, I'm open to this. You know what I mean? And trying to tie it to whether or not human beings. Well, it seems like I'm getting the idea that humans uh, should have shelter, right? Why? Because I like shelter. I'm in a place right now, and You know what I mean? We have these connective things, and these connective things are, you know what I mean, providing me, if nothing else, with heat, um, and protection from the wind, right? I mean, you got this electricity, but I mean, the electricity, I mean, is providing me, I suppose, with some sort of spiritual aid. And I mean, of course could supplement that with reading a book, but I assume I would need a light in order to see uh, the words on the book. So shelter, of course, provides the space necessary for electricity, and I mean that's not a necessity, but it seems like the four walls, particularly the roof as well, is an inevitability, um, because it feels good, right? If it rains and we have a consciousness, we would want to put something to block the rain from hitting my head. But it would be another thing to break the tree, because then the tree doesn't. Well, I mean, of course, if I break the tree, it's perhaps a selfish act, because I mean, other things perhaps was using the same tree too. I don't know. It's. I mean, you break the tree, then the tree is no longer living, right? The wood perhaps is no longer living. And, so its purpose changes once we cut a tree and we form it into a house, a wooden house. And that's cool, but I mean, is it the most ideal? Is it the most desirous for us and for life? If we're going to let the word life be synonymous with the word earth, or Mother Earth. So to experience life is to experience Mother Earth, and we don't want to kill life. So we don't want to kill Earth. Is that a fair stretch? Um, let's continue here.
The Druids of ancient Britain did grasp
The
it, focusing their
Druids.
spiritual practices on a reverence and connection with nature. But when Christianity spread through Europe, animism was condemned as pagan and savage. European colonialism enforced these views around the globe in places like the Americas and Australia, crushing the indigenous peoples and their nature wisdom. Since the birth of agriculture,
Okay,
humans have
so
known
it's
that taking
saying
more land
that
than
the
harvesting
concept of
divided up and
animism
sell
was
its natural
crushed
resources.
by
And
one
under
means or
colonization, the
another.
earth became a place to be conquered, dominated, farmed, fished, plundered, and mined on a
Ooh,
vast scale.
on a mass
Because of
scale.
any
So it's
scientific
kind of blaming
conclusion of ever
industrialism,
increasing control over the
somewhat
natural world,
Christianity,
20th
or
century
those that
also. In fact,
used
thought was all the
Christianity
rage
for
then,
that
as
means
French
purpose.
philosopher René Descartes and others like Sir Isaac Newton helped to kick off the Enlightenment, an era that prized reasoning, science, and order. A new view of the world emerged, with human beings as the thinking, rational masters, and nature as our unthinking, unfeeling servant. Standing apart from her, humans investigated nature's ultimate questions, dissecting her into smaller and smaller pieces. This brought us great power. And with great power comes the Anthropocene age had begun, an epoch
The
defined by one dominant
Anthropocene
species,
age.
us. On a planet that is billions of years old, ancient 500 years, much of the human race has come to see itself as the rulers and the center of all life. Today, we are
So it's
still
saying, do we see
transcending
ourselves
our
as the
processes
rulers
by
and
byline and
center
taking
of
by the
all
land.
life?
Our vast
Do you
sprawling cities are
particularly see
creating nature
yourself
just like no one ever
that
imagined.
way?
The world is attempting to meet the urgent challenge of climate change. But can anything fundamentally change while we still see ourselves as somehow separate from Earth? There are signs of hope.
Do we see
A hope
ourselves as
started to
separate
emerge.
from Earth?
Influenced by a resurgent indigenous view of Pachamama, Bolivia and Ecuador have passed laws granting all nature equal rights with humans, and in New Zealand, a Maori tribe has successfully fought to have their river and ancestor given the same legal rights as a person. In an interconnected world, can we humans find ways to truly reconnect to all life on the planet? A new era might start with one single idea. There is no Earth and us. We are one.
So that's an interesting concept. At the end, it said, there is no Earth and there is no us. Uh, we are one. So when you say us, you're including Earth. When you say Earth, you're including us. And I like that. And then it would then to the question at hand. And just remember, this is really informal sort of conversation. I'm just kind of juggling through this idea, and I really would love your feedback. Honestly, it's like the Earth. How would our houses look? They would be far more. So let's say form meets function. So the form of the house would meet the function of the house, and they have, these sustainable concepts and things like that. But did you think about like apartment buildings and stuff like that, multi-unit family homes and things like that? So then that would that would how would that look? You know what I mean? Sustainable, for buildings. Would that I mean, isn't adoption of life as Mother Earth and Mother Earth as life, including us, but not limited to us, including also animals? If we are really to like, take this concept to heart and really, I suppose, believe it, would that then, uh, I suppose, require that these types of living quarters that we have now, from the apartments to the houses, would all of that need to be, well, how would we need to change it, or would is the concept, is it too late, or could it be changed? Like, I mean, if we are to say that it needs to be changed, like if we are to live in harmony with the earth, I mean, like I told my friend before, say the trees are already cut. You know what I mean? So they say don't waste paper. I mean, well, I mean, the tree is already cut, so but I can put this, what has become of the tree can be put to use, but that tree that was cut is probably not going to come back. But please correct me if I'm wrong. But I suppose moving forward, we could design spaces, and it would have to be a part of the ethos. I mean, it would have to be common knowledge, a common understanding that yes, this has to happen because Earth needs to flourish. We need to flourish. We need to flourish, and by we mean Earth. So, you know what I mean? This block, this city, this you know, our town, our community, including the ground in which our houses are built upon, needs to flourish. Our trees and our animals need to flourish here. So what are we doing about the animal situation just in our local community? You know what I mean? What's going on? How's the housing looking in our community as it relates to the land? And correct me if I'm wrong. Am I going in the wrong direction with this uh, concept of shelter? And seems like we should uh, live inside of places, or have the option to go inside. That's interesting. The option to go inside when we want to. Perhaps there should be an option to sleep outside, perhaps in a controlled. Hmm, then you got, people. Then you have to deal with psychology. Yeah, then you have to deal with the psychology of people, right? Because you have people with psychopathy, crazy people that take advantage for one reason or another. And, and I suppose that, of course, certain houses have taken certain forms, not merely to protect themselves from the weather, but also to protect themselves from intelligent predators, i.e., you know what I mean, human beings. So, yeah. Uh, and maybe you guys can help me with this. Would a major deterrent to this human problem, this human um, uh, potential to be oppositional, I suppose, should that be attacked or dealt with holistically, or should that be how would that look? How would that play out if we're going to see life as earth and us as life and et cetera, et cetera. You see where I'm going with this, but before I end this video, I just want to kind of look at one last video. This one is a little bit longer. It's called The Art of Letting Things Happen. Let's go ahead and give this.
Yes, he became familiar with ideas like the importance
And
of
that's, I sped it up a little bit. So
after binge watching for days, he walked into his farm, fired up, and he determined to make it a great success. He started with pulling one of the crops as a way to make them grow faster, but this didn't work. Then he began to water the plants twice as much, hoping to make them grow faster, but he drowned them instead. After trying to force his success,
he watered his plants twice as much, hoping to make them grow faster.
Despite humanity's
But that just killed them.
Will to progress, we're still utterly dependent on nature. Human effort has its limitations and is always in conjunction with nature. We cannot grow a plant, for example, completely isolated from natural growth, even though we can influence and manipulate it. The reputed author of the Daoism, Lao Tzu, stated that the world governs itself. It doesn't need our intervention. As Lao Tzu wrote, when you arrive at non-action, nothing will be left undone. End quote. This idea resembles the basic understanding of the paradoxical concept Wu Wei. But when we look for a definition of Wu Wei, we quickly discover that there isn't one fixed meaning. Some translate Wu Wei as non-action or doing nothing, others as actionless action, and others as effortless action. We find out that Daoism offers several layers, if you will, regarding how Wu Wei can enhance our relationship with the world, and how this ancient art of letting things happen doesn't necessarily make us passive, ignorant bystanders, but can actually improve how we act, leading to better outcomes. This video serves as a humble attempt to make the depth of this philosophical idea clear and practical. Probably the most common interpretation of Wu Wei is quite literally aligning our actions with nature and not forcing anything and acting when
So it's saying Wu Wei can be
always
defined
leads to
as
force. He
non-action.
doesn't seem to point to literal use of force per se, but rather to forcing the flow of nature. Nature
So
as its
don't
own,
force
always working
the
in the
flow
background,
of nature.
lies at the root of our humanity's existence and continually creates and recreates what the Daoists call the 10,000 things, everything under heaven and beyond.
Everybody, it's Tony Robbins. How you doing out there? Know the storm. Oh,
But despite the immense propulsion of the universe, today's society places the importance of conscious human effort above all. We celebrate effort.
And this is talking about,
as we aim to always be busy for the sake of being busy.
we're busy
We push rocks up
and we
just for the sake of
prioritize
busy.
our
Making an effort
consciousness.
is one thing, but intelligently making an effort is another. Yes, sometimes hard work is necessary and action is appropriate, but on many occasions, it isn't. It depends on the rhythm of the game, on the cards you're dealt, and whether or not it's your turn. Acting out of turn means going against the flow of the game. Hence, we often experience that forcing things leads to ruin in the long run, and that pushing our luck beyond nature's constraints backfires. On the other hand, situations often solve themselves when we don't force or intervene. By letting things happen, things get done naturally. The novice farmer, for example, simply needed to leave his crops alone and be patient, and nature would do the rest. But when it's time to reap, the farmer should roll up his sleeves. The Tao never acts with force, yet there's nothing it cannot do, Lao Tzu stated. If it would just go along with nature, then everything runs smoothly. The farmer's task
This is
to sow
interesting.
the seeds. The seed's task is to grow into crops, and then the farmer's task is to reap the harvests when they're ready. This is how nature works optimally. Lao Tzu believed that the world cannot be governed, as the world governs itself. It's entirely out of control. Trying to control it.
So I guess what it's trying to say and what it means, I suppose for us right now, is the concept of non-action, not meaning always in a state of not doing anything, but kind of like, okay, understanding that there's a flow. I like the analogy that they used of a card game, and playing out of turn means you're going out of the flow of the game. So if you're thinking about the flow, the game of nature of life, you can understand that you don't want to force, and I suppose it would be analogous to playing out of turn would be to force nature to do something it is not time to do. For example, harvest. It's not good or not wise, not smart, not advantageous to try and harvest before harvest time. And I think that that's interesting, and because it seems like perhaps, and the videos perhaps suggesting that by prioritizing our own consciousness as opposed to, I don't know, the consciousness of things that perhaps have consciousness as well, uh, um, is forcing and messing up the flow. But
It's
let
always
me
a
know,
losing
help
battle.
me out with
Spending
that.
our lives fighting against nature is a waste of time, no matter how much people celebrate us for engaging in such heroic endeavor. Instead of spending our life energy trying to control, govern, and change the natural course of things, we're better off accepting what is and navigating through it like water flowing through a rocky surface towards the ocean. I quote, "Some are meant to lead, and others are meant to follow. Some must always train, and others have an easy time. Some are naturally big and strong, and others will always be small. Some will be protected and nurtured, and others will meet with destruction. The master accepts things as they are, and out of compassion avoids extravagance, excess, and the extremes." When we go deeper into the meaning of Wu Wei, it becomes even more intriguing. Let's assume its most accurate definition is effortless action. As opposed to the conventional translations like non-action and doing nothing, it points to being active and on the move, even though the common denominator stands firm, namely letting things happen. With effortless action, we could say that we're not so much doing, but rather going. We embark on a river stream without considering where it brings us. We're setting sail into uncharted territory, but don't let the great unknown phase us. We swim along with the current, not against it, making our way smooth, devoid of stammers and hiccups. Swimming against the current takes effort, so does holding onto a rock. When we force things, problems arise. An example is going on a date. The person you're going to meet is interested in one thing only, getting to know you, the person you are at that moment. But many people over-prepare, over-analyze, and rehearse what they're going to say. And so the nerves come in, people overcompensate, are disingenuous, and come across as staged. Why is this the case? Most likely because we focus too much on the results. Zhuangzi talks about how different prospects can influence our actions and emotional states if we attach ourselves to them. A previous video, named Win Without Trying, explains this in more detail, using Zhuangzi's parable of the archer. In the context of a date, most of us want the date to become a success. We want the other person to like us. So there's pressure involved, there's a prize to be won. And if we don't get it, we feel miserable. And thus, what could have been a fun, joyful night out becomes a strenuous, forced, stressful event with lots of
This seems to be going on a little tangent, but it's quite interesting, and I'm sure you guys and girls are getting something from this too. But we'll tie it in a bit, in a minute.
Even seeing it coming. Now you're acting natural and in a moment and spontaneously, as you haven't had the opportunity to overthink. There has been no time for planning, plotting, analyzing, and all that remains is a pure you, present and one with the moment. And most people love.
But I do think that there is sort of a line trying to be drawn where it's like, okay, yeah, you're you, and then there's times when you're not you, and that's interesting. And I suppose the being you, the being natural, it is the ultimate, and I suppose it's there where one finds completeness. And I suppose it is this state of not really needing, not really feeling like you're lacking, not really feeling like I need something else other than because I have. I mean, you know, I mean, things come into place. I mean, you know, um, you want people to, you get the idea that you can perhaps get a particular lover if they see you in a particular light, and so you want to make your light shine brighter. I tried to work with that analogy there, but I think that it might work, and that might lead to people thinking that they lack. But if one can just feel, okay, I am enough. I am here in my natural state, and in my space, I feel comfortable. Space, including life, including the earth on which you stand on, in that space. And if you feel complete, and hopefully the person you're meeting, or you have interest in meeting, would not be swayed too much by you not having anything other than access to those things that you need to express life. So if you have full life, then that should be enough. You know what I mean? It's kind of abstract, but let's see.
So if we manage to let go of the results, we can act more effortlessly and responsively just for the act itself.
The quantum computer they're calling it can
So
compute many times
we're gonna wrap this
faster
video
than
up
current
soon.
Successful
Got
quantum
another
computer could
commercial here,
If we go even deeper, we arrive
but
at the ego
we're probably gonna let this video is probably gonna go on for a couple of more minutes, and then
that fit the context they're in.
we'll wrap this
This
one up.
context could be a religious community, a country, or a profession. We generally see this as a good thing, but there's a downside, and this downside has to do with the ego. The
Okay,
ego
ego.
often distorts how we perceive the reality of the world. When we approach a situation, for example, a conversation with a spouse, the ego tends to fill in the unknown gaps with all kinds of prejudices, fantasies, and convictions. The larger the ego, the more it will dominate the situation.
The
Seeking
larger the
to resolve
ego.
from what's truly going on. Therefore, people with strong convictions experience great difficulty seeing the world in another light or outside the confines of their intellectual prison. Hence, Lao Tzu urges us to return to a more unprocessed state, which he called.
Okay. I just want to ask ChatGPT what accounts for different size egos. What accounts for different size egos? And it's generating an answer right now. When I return back to the video, it's going to go into Lao Tzu saying that he urges us to return to a more unprocessed state, which he calls the uncarved block. I suppose like a block of wood or what have you. But what accounts for different size egos? The size of one's ego, ChatGPT says, can be influenced by various factors, including upbringing, personal experiences, cultural background, and individual personality traits. Ego size can also be shaped by a person's self-esteem, confidence, and how they perceive themselves in relation to others. Additionally, external validation, success, and social comparison can play a role in shaping the size of one's ego.
The uncarved block. We could see the uncarved block as a person who is unencumbered by all kinds of intellectual baggage, so his vision of the world becomes clear. Dr. Guilin Chong, a Dutch philosopher and sinologist, explains her interpretation of Wu Wei in a Dutch book about Daoist philosophy, emphasizing the element of emptiness or openness. She describes the essence of practicing Wu Wei as follows, and I quote, "And so, the whole practitioner is able to, from the clarity of his egoless center, observe all relevant forces in a certain situation in their being, undistorted, so we can respond to them flawlessly." End quote. So if we look at Wu Wei this way, it's not just about letting go, going along with the flow of nature, allowing the universe to do its job. It's a much bolder move for which we need a lot of courage. We have to be brave enough to let go of what we've learned.
It says
Throw
be
our wrongs
brave
and mistakes
enough.
in the trash,
That's
flush our
interesting.
assumptions through the toilet, or how Lao Tzu put it, and I quote, "Renounce knowledge and your problems will end." What is the
Renounce
difference between yes and
knowledge.
no?
That's
What is the difference
interesting.
between good
I'm not
and evil? Must you fear what others fear?
not sure about that.
Nonsense. Look how far you have missed the mark. End quote. Zhuangzi tells us a story about a conversation between Confucius.
But I'm
and one of
open
his
to hearing
disciples,
what you
Yan
guys
Yu.
have to
Yan
say.
wanted to travel to the kingdom of Wei after he heard about its many. Well, Confucius offered an alternative, which he called the fasting of the heart.
Fasting
Confucius
of the
describes
heart.
fasting of the heart as a form of meditation, which leads to letting our
Form of
preconceptions go and giving room
meditation.
to receive with an open
So
understanding.
this is
And it is
a spiritual
renounce self and practice
affectation.
not. I quote, "No matter if it's about politics, government, or self, what
Okay, so a spiritual affectation. Okay, and I suppose that the question, the original question, was the invention / discovery of the shelter inevitable, i.e., did God intend us to live in shelter, inside, to have a place to go, a place of refuge and solace when when life got rough or got really unbearable? That is, life including Earth and where we live, our relationship to where we live, all of that being life. And so when life got rough, rain, what have you, floods, there would be a physical place of refuge, also a spiritual place of refuge. And yeah, but what and then it goes into egos. So okay, but then you just be kind of practical and say, okay, or a person that lives by themselves. All right, it's not much of an ego thing if a person that lives with, say, 3 other people, they might feel that they should have more space. Uh, okay, that makes sense. Then, all right. What is it then when it comes to? I mean, it would have to be somewhat of an ego thing, a territorial thing, when you have one person, perhaps desiring the affection of another person or what have you, and then there's jealousy involved. I don't know. Am I being? I mean, I don't think I'm being hyperbolic. We know that this happens. Jealousy happens. Envy happens. People want to live, I suppose, in excess. No, I want you guys to. I mean, of course, people do want to live. I think people want to live how they want to live. Okay, that's really not saying much, but there is also the option to toil with your own hands. So if you cut down 3 trees, okay, you build a house uh, with the wood of 3 trees, just being whatever. And then somebody says, okay, use 3, I'll use 10. And then somebody's like, hey, 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 whoa, whoa. Before you guys finish, the whole forest will be gone. I don't know. So then you have to think about that. Then it's like, okay, all right. So if everybody uses the wood of 20 trees to build a house, hey, where's the forest now? And then who's to say there's enough 20 trees to be divided amongst us? So what's the major differentiator? So I suppose, when it's that spiritual affectation that was there, like the that it was kind of hearkening to the ego, fasting of the heart, not wanting to, knowing that if you are the master, in this sense, the master of one's environment, including but not limited to the earth upon which you live, the animals, I suppose, within your space that you want to take care of because they are life and they make your life richer. And their presence in your life is important to your presence in your life, I suppose. I'm getting to that point. Um, it seems like that. I'm working through it out. I don't want to attempt to bring it home, though. I think that is enough. And so let me know how you guys and girls feel about this particular format. Let me know about this question here. I really feel like it's interesting. And let me know your thoughts and your feelings. And please like, comment, subscribe. Super cool. I appreciate y'all kicking it with me, this informal sort of conversation that we're having here. So until next time, take it easy. Love you.